Well, I decided to make part 2 of the transmission rebuild because there's a few things that I found that's worth mentioning. So I took apart the valve body and inspected part of it, mainly because I took it off because I just wanted to check out some of the valves. I haven't gotten to them yet. But what I did get to is the main plate and remove the gaskets. There's 2 different gaskets, one for each side, and they're labeled. But after closer inspection of the plate, there are 7 check balls, valve balls that are used. And after finding out what types of wear this plate gets, I could see some problems. So I decided to order another one. I got a Transgo, and it's a 46, I think it's 46 PLT 96. But anyway, what I found was these, where the valve, the check balls go, a couple of these holes are beat up pretty bad. I think on this one side there's a total of 3. 1, 2, 3. This one is a little nasty. And I think one of these 2, or maybe both of these, were bad. This one is chewed up, plus it looks like it's a little bit oblong. It's not obvious, but... And then the same with this. This looks just a little bit oblong. The other locations looked okay. So I decided I'm just going to go ahead and order another valve body plate. But in the meantime, I'm going to take a look at this drum and the clutch and steels, and what I don't have right now. Let's see, I need a straight edge to see if this surface is still completely flat, because the band, you can see the wear marks on from the band. I think this drum, or the shell, should be okay. I did measure it at one time, but let me do it again. Okay, so using a good straight edge, I want to check to see if from the band coming on and off, how this is wearing this shell. And it looks like it's in okay condition. What I should do, I'll put a light behind it and see how much light comes through it. If I can stand this up and do this all at the same time. So it is worn. Yeah, it is worn somewhat. I'll measure a few other places, like two or 3 other places, and verify. But I think I'm going to reuse this shell again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace these bushings. There's 2 of them, and I think I've got the right ones out of the kit. 2 of these, I'm not sure which one it is that, well, this guy goes in this front part. One of these 2 is supposed to be the one that works. One is a little bit wider than the other, so once I pop out this bushing, I'll be able to tell exactly which one it is, or I could use that gauge to measure it. But anyway, I'll wait till I get it out. Okay, so I'm going to replace the clutches and the steels in this assembly. And I've replaced the bushings, put new bushings in here already. So let's get this snap ring pulled out of here. And I've been soaking these clutches actually overnight. Don't really need to soak them that long, but they do need to be saturated in transmission fluid. So, all right, let's take a look at these. Come on. There you go. So we got the top ring holds everything together, and the clutches and steels. We got 4 clutches, 4 steels. These clutches look really good, but I'm going to put the new ones in anyway. So, and then I think this is a wave. All right, so that's about all that there is. Everything appears to look fine. It's clean. So let's go ahead and put this thing back together again. So instead of the clutch, well, the first clutch, and then I am going to use new steels because these are a little dark. Not bad, but since I have new ones, I use them. So steel and clutch. Keep these things in my mind straight. Steel. So this pack was quite simple. Come on. All right. Make sure the snap ring goes down all the way. Get our clutches lined up, sort of, so when we put it back together, everything will be kind of lined up. I don't know if you can see. So I guess the last thing is I've read that we can just slightly rough this surface up, and I don't remember if it was like a steel wool or even a Scotch-Brite. I don't think it was like a 2000 sandpaper, but I'm going to just run Scotch-Brite. I'm going to put a new band on there so you can see where it's been worn with these light spots. So I think what I'm going to do, I might soak this also in transmission fluid. I don't know if that's necessary, but before I put it on, at least soak it down some. I don't know if this real dry surface on breaking onto the drum is recommended or not, but we'll see. Okay, so for the next pack, this is the 3/4 clutches. And this set looks toasted, as expected. Not terribly bad, but it's bad enough that they've got to be replaced. And the boost springs, I purchased new springs, kept the little clips, the holders, but I replaced these springs. And it's recommended to do that in case the spring is actually lower, compressed down, or worn. But the old set that I pulled out were pretty much the same height as these. So I didn't realize that, but I figured why not just get a good set of new Sonic springs. So they are ready to go in. But before we put the new clutches, the new 3/4 clutches, we've got to pull out this front sun gear and planetary gears. So let's do that. Okay, I got it started. Just a matter of working this snap ring out. This is a thick snap ring, so it's kind of hard to. All right, it's a thick one. Okay, that's the order that these clutches and steels came out. I'm going to lay this out, and this is Small clutch, small steel, clutch steel. Okay. This is the one-way. Okay. And then this is a rubber gasket that's critical. The shaft that fits into this has to seal very well, otherwise we're going to get leakage and lose pressure where we need it. So let me stick this back in there and find the replacement in the kit. All right, so there's one more clutch in here. Clutch and a steel. And these look pretty good. Still have the right color, but since we have new clutches and steels, we're going to replace all those. All right, so that seal is the most critical. There is a bearing that will go on top of here, like so. Seal. And that's about it for the internals here, except there is a spring. This is spring loaded, this circle of springs. We're going to let that go. I'm not going to mess with that. Pretend I didn't see that. On the other side, we've got these O-rings, and the kit has, so there's on here, there's a total of 4 O-rings, and then there's a bearing down here, which it feels pretty good. It looks like it's running smoothly. So I'm going to let that go. That's fine. So it's just a matter of replacing these clutches and steels. Before I forget, I'm going to replace these bushings. There are two small bushings in here. And I'll take care of those before we do anything with the clutches. I did find this seal in the rebuild kit. So here is that's the old one. I'm sorry, that's the new one. Here's the old one. The old one does not have a little O-ring on the inside of this lip to help push this inner diameter onto the shaft. But the new one, it's really hard to tell. Diameter wise, the new one looks like it has a slightly smaller inside diameter, plus it has a little O-ring to help push that sealing lip against the shaft. So I think this new one's going to be much better. It's critical just to keep that seal tight. So put that in there. Okay. And you want to make sure that it just is seated firmly. It's flush with this this shell of that it mates into. Okay, let me switch over and get these bushings replaced. Okay, so I think we're ready to put this pack back together. First, the small sets of clutches and steels go on the smaller diameter. So I think the thing to do is to pack them on here. And then we'll go on to and then set this in the shell, and then put the larger clutches and steels in. I got the bushings replaced, so they're good to go. And I'm gonna put a little bit of goop on this bearing so it stays with the clutch pack and this
Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Oops, sorry about that. My camera died and shut down. So anyway, I've got the larger clutches and steels in place, and here are the old ones. They look really pretty much brand new, but I'm going to set those to the side. And the remaining part that we got to put on is this top steel, which locks everything down. I hope. And then a snap ring. I'll show you in a second. Just put this snap ring so that it doesn't interfere with the boost spring. The boost spring goes right here. I'm trying to center the snap ring. Not here. Oh, in fact. Yeah, that's not going to snap ring in this case. It's the next pack that goes in. That's it. Kind of have to pry the snap ring down to catch. Snap rings in. We can spin this. We have our new seal in. Got our new bushings in. All right. So the last step, I believe, for this pack, for this subassembly, is to get these boost springs in, and they will sit like so once these the next set of steels and clutches go in. I'm hoping that they will go in easily. They came out easy. All right. Last set of clutch packs. Okay, well, I don't have that 7th clutch, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to pick maybe the best one out of this pack, but I want to make sure I get this thickness correct. All right, so this is the original. I'm just taking a measurement here. I'll put the new clutches and the new steels in here, replacing. Let me pick out the best looking clutch. I really don't want to do this, but unless I order just a single clutch, they're all a little darker. They have plenty of material on them, but this was not too bad. So it's clutch on the outside. But for now, let me assemble this with one old clutch and the 6 new clutches. These really don't look that bad. Okay, let's keep that one. Set these aside. So it's going to be steel first. Steel, clutch, steel, clutch, steel, clutch, steel, clutch, steel, clutch, steel. This one is clutch. All right, so let's just verify this thickness with a new set. And it is thicker than the original by at least 1/8 of an inch. So let's back up here. I'm going to try this with just new clutches. And keep the old steels. Let's get rid of all these clutches. So the difference now is that we have all 6 new clutches and 6 new steels. And we are at the correct thickness, or we are at the original thickness that we had with the old clutches and old steels. So is that a solution? Let's verify that again. There's 7 clutches, 6 steels, and so I don't know. I'm gonna have to do some research and also talk to somebody to see if this setup makes sense. So here again, we're at another standstill, and don't want to put this pack together for fear that it's not going to work out right. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to have to check around, ask some questions, forums, or go to the local transmission shop and see what these guys tell me. So for the time being, we're at a standstill. This was the last clutch pack that we have to put together. I should be getting the valve body main plate delivered tomorrow, so I can put the valve body back together with the new gaskets and get all the check balls in the correct spots. We'll go through and take a look at these other valves. Also, what I have on order are new solenoids. So there should be 5 solenoids coming. And I guess that's about it. I can we can change these seals, these O-rings on the back shaft. We've got 4, so something I can do. So, all right. Well, I'll keep you posted. Okay, fast forwarding. I got all the clutches and steels in this unit, and I verified that we've got enough slippage, measured, 40 thousandths gap, so that when pressure is applied through these back orifices, the bladder is going to push its way forward for either this set of clutches or the rear set of clutches. This set of clutches are the 3/4 gear. And so that's set up. We've got new bushings, new, it's hard to see back there, new bushings and a new rubber seal right at the end of the shaft, or where the shaft will go. Put in new O-rings here. They're a little bit stretched out, but the old ones, that's an old one, and it's kind of compressed just because it's been compressed and heated. So they're ready to go. The boost springs are in. This top plate covers them up, but they're in there, and those are brand new. So this is done. And I did a quick check by blowing air in these three openings, and they will inflate that bladder to engage or disengage those clutches. So that's been tested. And so I'm going to bring down the pump unit next, because I don't think that the valve body plate has arrived yet. It's on order and it's supposed to be here today. So I'm going to jump ahead and replace soft parts on the pump and Let's see. We've got a bunch of parts left. So we've got O-rings. We have springs. I'm not quite sure where all of these parts go. There's some O-rings for the pump casing. I think there's 8 bolts that go in, and they need an O-ring on each bolt to seal them off. And there's a couple bushings that have to be replaced on the pump. I have a couple extras in here. New ball bearings for the valve body. And let's see, tail shaft seal. Don't need that because I've got a new tail shaft. And other gaskets. I'm not certain where all of these O-rings are going to be going. Maybe in the pump, because I think that's the last sub-assembly to disassemble and take a look at. So let me get that pump down here. The pump assembly has some bushings to be replaced, front and back. Yep. And the back bushing, it has an O-ring. I think that's the old style. In the kit, it did send us a new hardened type of seal. I hope that they have both the soft O-ring. I think that's what this is. I think this is for the pump. Yeah, it looks pretty close. So that. I'm going to take out some of these bolts and inspect. I think there's a spring replacement, although because I don't know the status of this transmission when I bought it, I don't know if it's necessary to change this. We got some other bushings. So let's dig in. We'll take it apart, see what we have. 5 bolts. Looks like number 10s. I've got the transmission pump disassembled, rebuilt, everything. Every part that came in the rebuild kit went into this pump. So it has new bushings. It's got new seal. I pulled out the pump mechanism, inspected it, and there was nothing to replace there. Replaced the springs, replaced the filter, which is this guy, which is that. The seals, the seal has been replaced. So that's that part. And then on this main shaft, bushings, new bushing there, here. And that's about all for this half. This gets replaced, I think. Well, it can stay. It's where the main filter is inserted. So I think that's it. So this little bushing has been replaced. So it took a little while, but it's all done. I'll put it back together, and it'll be ready to go. We'll go on to the valve body next. So on the valve body, we've got the main plate, the 2 gaskets on, and before I align these with some of these bolts, I put on some transmission assembly grease just to keep the paper gaskets in place. In the there's 2 valve balls underneath the plate, and a total of 6. Let me see. I'm sorry. A total of 7 then go on the top, and I'll show you where they're located, but this is one indication. So it should be 4 here, and there's 3 over here. As far as the valve body itself, still waiting on the solenoids. So there should be a total of 5 solenoids that are coming. I've got to take apart these valves and inspect each of the valves to make sure there's no wear points. So that's about it for the valve body. There's not a whole lot that I can say about it. There's more details that the pros can tell you, but we're getting there. We finally got our delivery from the Jungle Store, and these are aluminum billet type of pistons. One for the forward accumulator, the 1, 2, 3, 4 pistons. So what I'm going to do is, well, this has been removed from the forward accumulator, and what this package does is replace this pin type of, and this is plastic, that's even worse, the pin type of a piston with a pinless piston. Everything else is the same for this forward accumulator. We still use the same stock spring and the cover, so it's really just a matter of replacing this. The other thing is the 1-2 shift piston gets replaced, and we have to pop out that plastic piston and replace it with a pinless. Now the thing about these pinless type of pistons is a check ball, not a check ball, but a ball bearing is provided with a kit, and we've got to drive the ball into the hole where the pin had been, and that will seal that. So this package, and this is made in China, this package came with 2 balls for the forward. It comes with 2 balls for the 1-2 and the 3-4 shift, but these 2 balls are different sizes. I've understood that the pin and the pin hole in the back of the case is actually a lot smaller than these balls are, but I'll have to check those. And so we may have to draw out that hole. So after the ball's been driven in with a punch, they've got to knock in some, just with a chisel or a sharp screwdriver to put notches in, and that will capture the ball and keep it in place. So let me get started. I also want to say, and you notice that there's a 3-4 clutch. I want to say that I decided to get these pinless pistons after I assembled the valve body. So the valve body, or at least the 1-2 piston is in the case that I showed you. The 3-4 is underneath the valve body plate. I've got the whole valve body all reassembled with the new solenoids and a new plate and a new gaskets. And so, bonehead me, we've got to disassemble that in order to get this 3-4 piston down underneath the valve body plate. Anyway, let's see if we can get these bearings, balls into the pinholes. So 1 check ball went in, used a punch, and punched it in. So it took a few good whacks, and then I took a screwdriver and knocked a few notches so it would kind of capture the bearing in there. The 2 bearings, ball bearings that came with the pistons were too small, so they just went through and didn't snug up against the wall of the pin. So I found the bearings that I use, or the balls, check balls that were in the valve body, those were all replaced, and so the old ones worked okay on this piston. So all we have to do is take the original spring and plate and lube this up with some transmission assembly lube. The piston has a receptacle to match the spring, and this goes in like so. So hopefully I'll be able to hold it in there. It's a pretty strong spring. So we get this in, this smaller spring, and then the cover. So I won't be able to do this. Well, I'll probably have to get some kind of clamp or get these started somehow to be able to, well, let me see, maybe I can do it right here. If I get this bottom one, I can turn that out of the way when I get the piston in, turn this down, and hopefully get it all held into place. Now, it didn't seem to be as strong with this thinner piston, but I don't know. Let's see. Get a few threads started. All right, now let's see if we can get this in. Get that out of the way. Flip this over. Sorry if my arm's in the way. I don't know if this is gonna work. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I'll get another screw started. Another bolt. At least it's not flying out, but you just want to be careful not to rip the O-rings that are on the piston. Okay, we got the forward accumulator on. Hopefully nothing got pinched. It seemed to go on pretty easy. Next is the 1-2 accumulator piston, and it's got 2 springs. This one we've got to drive out the piston. Where's my hammer? Drive out the piston shaft, and that should come right out. All right. So, same deal with this. When I put a ball into this hole, but what I've seen before is that this pin diameter is larger than the balls that are given to us in the package. This I don't think is going to work, but we can just drop it in. We can see how loose it is. Well, actually, that one is not terribly bad. That one is pretty good. So I'll knock this in with a punch, and hopefully not split anything, you know, with a case, so I don't do any damage. Where's our punch? not bad. I don't know if I need to put both of these in. I mean, more is usually better, but I hope I don't regret it. Let's try it. I think the first one's got to be driven down further. Yeah, it went. Okay, let's drive this down. So needless to say, if you ever want to go back to using the pin type, if you drive these balls out, I'm sure this aluminum is stretched, so it may not be usable or possible to reuse it. All right, where's my other punch? I don't see it. All right, well, let's try to punch it in further with this. All right, so that's about flush. And I'll put knock some marks to capture those balls in here. I guess I use this. All right, that should hold them in, if you can see it there, but they should work out. And all I have to do is clean this guy out, make sure there's no metal chips in there. Get our springs, get a dark, and then we've got a light green spring. They are clean. Set them in. Get our piston. I did not use the two balls that were there. There's one very large one, which is not the right size. I don't know if this one would work or not, but we got two that worked, so that's what counts. We just assemble this. There's an O-ring, rubber type of normal O-ring, and then there's one that's Teflon based, which is very stiff. So I think the Teflon goes on this side, and the rubber O-ring goes on that. So let me assemble this. It's just simply a matter of then bolting it onto the valve body plate. But I think, and I've been thinking about this since I forgot to, well, I didn't forget, but I got these parts after I assembled the valve body. I may disassemble the valve body and get this good piston in for the 3/4 shift piston, but I can kick myself, so I'll give it a try. So I just received another part that I had an afterthought about, and I hope I don't regret trying to. So I have this drum assembled, and I thought, well, just to make sure, I'm going to get a 3/4 piston, bonded piston. So it just came today, and I'm going to disassemble clutch packs, or the 3/4 clutch packs, and there's another clutch pack in the back, and then we've got to disassemble the spring pack, and I have a spring compressor that I'll use. So it's late on Thursday, and so besides redoing this valve body and putting in the 3/4 accumulator piston, I'll do this 3/4 bonded piston. This video has gotten pretty long, so I'm going to skip showing you all those details, and I'll get back after I'm completed with those chores. So I hope I don't mess anything up. Everything looks good on the valve body, but I just wish I would have remembered that I was going to replace this accumulator piston. Well, we're on to the final steps of this build of the 4L65E transmission, and I'm going to show you the input drum assembly. I've got it disassembled, and the main reason I wanted to make this part of the video is because I am replacing the 3/4 bonded piston, the bonded clutch piston for the 3/4 gears. So that's the main reason. I got a brand new one. We've got a good seal, and this is one source of failure for the 3/4 clutches. There's an O-ring that I've already have installed, and also the rubber bushing gasket. And this is another important gasket because, I don't know if you consider it an O-ring or a gasket, but it's this one's critical because you want to make sure you've got a good seal of the shaft going into this. So the first thing is this piston, and it goes, I've got everything lined up the way it should go in, so this is already lubed up. One thing to note is you want to make sure that these vent holes are clear, and there's a bearing with a check ball. You want to make sure that that's clear and clean. The housing has been cleaned, which is critical, so you need to work that bonded piston in. The next thing is the shell, and I checked this for any cracks or any burrs or any bad spots, and it looks fine. What I did not do is I didn't clean it very well. A little bit of assembly lube on that. Make sure it slides in. Okay. Next thing is the spring cage. And the last thing is this housing to keep everything together. I'll give this a quick wipe off to get any residue off. There's no metal shavings, but it's just a good idea to just clean it off. And we'll give it a little bit of assembly lube again on the inside lip, that inner diameter, and then this diameter, this surface, because there's another seal that goes in here. Alright. And give it a little press down, make sure it's in there on top of the spring cage. And it just did pop, so. All right. Next is this piston.